The sky above burned orange and red. Smoke rose from 100 cities. The people had never known war. For 300 years they had been teachers, healers, and diplomats. They had 4 arms, soft blue skin, and eyes that showed every emotion they felt. They believed in peace. They believed the galaxy was kind. They were wrong. The devouring swarm came without warning. Millions of living ships fell from the sky like a black rain. Each ship was made of flesh and bone, grown in the dark spaces between stars. The creatures inside were hungry. They did not negotiate. They did not take prisoners. They only consumed. Ambassador stood at the window of the High Council chamber. She was old now, her blue skin faded to pale gray. She had spent her life talking to other species, building friendships, creating peace. None of that mattered anymore. The swarm did not listen to words. Behind her, the council members argued. Some wanted to surrender, some wanted to hide underground, some simply wept, ignored them all. She was thinking about something forbidden. Long ago, before was born, the Galactic Concord had discovered a strange world called Earth. It was a terrible place. The gravity was crushing. The weather was violent. Predators hunted in every corner. Poison grew in the plants. Disease lived in the water. The creatures there should have died 1,000 times. Instead, they thrived. The humans of Earth were impossible. They could survive wounds that would kill any other species. They could run for hours without stopping. They ate plants and animals that would poison others. They lived in frozen wastelands and burning deserts. They even swam in their acidic oceans for fun. The Conquered was afraid. They called Earth a death world and humans. They voted to isolate humanity. No contact, no trade, no communication. The humans were left alone in their small corner of space, wondering why the galaxy ignored them. Had read the old records. She knew something the council had tried to forget. Humans were dangerous, yes, but they were also kind. When other humans suffered, they helped. When strangers cried for aid, they answered. They were protectors as much as predators. She walked to an ancient console covered in dust. The council fell silent. "What are you doing?" asked High Minister, a young with terror in his eyes. "Something we should have done long ago," said. "I am calling for help." She pressed a button. The machine came alive with a soft hum. It was an emergency beacon, built centuries ago and never used. It broadcast on frequencies that only humans could hear. "You cannot," whispered, "the will destroy us." "The swarm is already destroying us," replied. "The humans are our only hope." The signal flew into space at the speed of light. It carried a simple message in all known languages. "We are dying. Please help, please." Thousands of light years away, a human ship drifted through empty space. The Eternal Dawn was an exploration vessel, built to travel far and discover new things. Its captain, a man named, had spent 20 years wondering why humanity was alone in the universe. Was 53 years old. His black hair had turned gray at the temples. His face was weathered from years of recycled air and artificial light. He had joined the space service as a young man full of dreams. He wanted to meet aliens, to learn new things, to find humanity's place among the stars. Instead, he found silence. Every time human ships approached other species, they fled. Every signal went unanswered. The galaxy treated humans like monsters. Was reading reports in his cabin when his communication officer knocked on the door. "Captain, you need to hear this," said. She was young, barely 25, with short black hair and quick eyes. She held a data pad with shaking hands. "What is it?" "A distress signal, not human." Sat up straight. In all his years of service, no alien had ever contacted a human ship, not once. He followed to the bridge, where the message played on the main speaker. The voice was strange and musical, clearly not human, but the words were clear. "We are dying, please help, please." The bridge crew stood frozen. Navigator stared at his screens. Engineer Myra gripped her console. Weapons officer checked his systems out of habit. They all understood what this meant. Someone had finally asked humans for help. "Where is it coming from?" asked. "A planet called," replied. "They are being attacked by something called the devouring swarm." "I know about the swarm," said quietly. My grandmother told me stories. They eat entire civilizations. How far? Asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed. Looked at his crew. They were explorers, not soldiers. The Eternal Dawn had weapons, but it was not a warship. Going to might mean death. But someone had asked for help. After centuries of silence, someone had finally reached out to humanity. Could not ignore that. Set course for, he ordered, maximum speed. Captain said carefully, we should contact Earth first. This is bigger than one ship. Nodded, you are right. Send everything we have to Fleet Command. Tell them what we found. Tell them the galaxy finally needs us. He sat in his captain's chair and looked at the stars on the. Somewhere out there, people were dying. They had called for monsters to save them. Smiled grimly. He would show them that monsters could be heroes too. All hands, he announced over the ship's speakers, prepare for rescue mission. We have people to save. The Eternal Dawn turned toward and accelerated into the dark. The message from the Eternal Dawn reached Earth in 6 hours. It passed through relay stations and military channels until it landed on the desk of Admiral. She read it 3 times before she believed it. Was 61 years old. She had commanded ships for 30 years. She had won battles against pirates, put down rebellions, and protected human colonies from every threat. But she had never fought aliens. No human had. The galaxy had made sure of that. Now the galaxy was asking for help. She walked to her window and looked at the shipyards orbiting Earth. Dozens of warships floated in the darkness, their hulls gleaming with weapons that had never been tested against alien enemies. For generations, humanity had built these ships hoping for a chance to prove themselves. That chance had finally come. Picked up her communicator. This is Admiral. All fleet commanders report to headquarters immediately. We have a mission. Word spread faster than any official announcement. Soldiers told their families. Officers told their crews. Within hours, every human in space knew the truth. Aliens had called for help, and humanity was going to answer. The response was immediate. Ships that were docked for repairs powered up their engines. Crews that were on leave canceled their vacations and returned to duty. Young officers who had never seen combat volunteered for the mission. Old veterans who had retired years ago asked to serve again. In 48 hours, 47 ships gathered in orbit around Earth. There were heavy warships with massive guns. There were fast cruisers built for speed. There were carriers loaded with fighter craft. There were medical ships with hundreds of doctors and nurses. There were supply haulers carrying food, water, and medicine. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, the. She looked at the fleet through the and felt pride swell in her chest. These were her people. They were afraid, but they were going anyway. Commander stood beside her. He was 40 years old, tall and strong, with a soldier's bearing. He would lead the ground forces when they reached. He had already selected his Marines, 10,000 of the best soldiers humanity had ever produced. The crews are ready, reported. Morale is high, everyone wants to fight. They will get their chance, replied. The swarm has never faced humans before. They do not know what they are dealing with. On a troop carrier called the Iron Promise, Sergeant checked her medical equipment for the 10th time. She was 32 years old, with calm eyes and steady hands. She was a combat medic, trained to heal people while bullets flew around her. Had joined the military after pirates destroyed her home colony. She was 19 when it happened. She watched her parents die. She spent 3 days hiding in the ruins before rescue ships arrived. That experience had taught her something important. The worst thing in the universe was being helpless while others suffered. She would never be helpless again. "You ready for this?" asked Private. He was young, barely 20, with nervous energy and a quick smile. "I am always ready," replied. "The question is whether you are ready." "I was born ready," said, but his hand shook slightly as he checked his rifle. Smiled, "Good, stay close to me down there. I will keep you alive." The fleet began to move. 47 ships accelerated away from Earth, their engines burning bright against the darkness. They would travel for 3 weeks through uncharted space, moving faster than any previous human expedition. As they traveled, they intercepted transmissions from the Galactic Concord. The aliens were terrified, not of the swarm, of the humans. "They are coming," one broadcast warned. "They have broken the quarantine. All species should prepare for the worst." "The humans cannot be reasoned with," said another. "They evolved on a death world. Violence is their nature. They will kill everything in their path." "This is the end of galactic peace," a third transmission declared. "The monsters are loose." Captain listened to these broadcasts on the eternal dawn. He had arrived at the edge of the system first, scouting ahead of the main fleet. What he saw made his stomach turn. Thousands of swarm ships surrounded the planet. They were not like human ships at all. They were alive, made of dark flesh and hard bone. They pulsed with a sickening rhythm, like giant hearts beating in the void. Tendrils connected them to each other, forming a web of hunger around the dying world. "How many?" asked quietly. "At least 5,000, replied. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Maybe more." Shook his head. "We have 47 ships, they have 5,000. Those odds are impossible." "Nothing is impossible," said. "We are human. Impossible is what we do." He opened a channel to Admiral. Her face appeared on his screen, calm and focused. "Report," she ordered. "The situation is worse than we expected," said. "The swarm has complete control of the system. They outnumber us 100-1. Was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally found worthy prey. "Good," she said. "I was worried this would be too easy." She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. "All ships," she announced, "prepare for battle. We reach in 6 hours. When we arrive, we will show the galaxy what humans are made of. We will show them that when someone calls for help, we answer, no matter the cost." The fleet accelerated toward the planet of screams. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the sensors came alive with warnings. Admiral stared at the swarm was everywhere. There covered the stars like a living shadow. Tendrils of dark flesh connected ship to ship, forming patterns that hurt to look at. In the center of this nightmare, the planet glowed with fire. "How many civilians are down there?" asked. "Sensors show approximately 3 billion still alive," reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Bora. "They are concentrated in the major cities. The swarm is harvesting the outer regions." Harvesting, such a clean word for such horror. The swarm did not kill quickly. They consumed slowly, keeping their prey alive as long as possible. The screams from the planet were being broadcast on emergency channels. Ordered those channels closed. Her crew did not need to hear that. On the surface of Ambassador watched the sky through a cracked window. Smoke rose from burning buildings. In the distance, she could hear the clicking sounds of swarm drones hunting in the streets. The shelter she was hiding in held 200, mostly children and elderly. They had nowhere else to go. "Ambassador," whispered her aide, a young male named, "ships have arrived, but they are not conquered vessels." "Human ships," said. It was not a question. "Yes, 47 of them." Closed her eyes. She had done it. She had summoned now she would learn if she had saved her people or doomed them. In space, Admiral opened a channel to all human ships. Her voice was calm and clear. "Listen to me," she said. "The odds are against us. We are outnumbered 100-1. By any logical measure, this battle is already lost." She paused. On every ship, humans stopped what they were doing to listen. "But we are not here because of logic. We are here because someone asked for help. For centuries, the galaxy has feared us. They called us monsters. They locked us away. They said we were too dangerous to be free." Her voice grew stronger. "Today we show them the truth. We are dangerous, yes, but we choose what we fight for. We choose to protect. We choose to save. We choose to be the hope that others have lost." She stood from her command chair. "All ships attack formation. We are going to punch a hole through that swarm and reach the planet. Some of us will not survive, but those we save will remember us forever. Today, humanity becomes legend. All ships forward." The human fleet charged. The swarm had never seen anything like it. Every species they had consumed before had tried to flee. Every species had begged for mercy. Every species had died screaming. The humans did not flee. The humans did not beg. The humans flew straight into the heart of the swarm with their weapons blazing. Captain pushed the Eternal Dawn to maximum speed. His ship was an explorer, not a warship, but it had enough guns to make a difference. Swarm tried to intercept him. He destroyed 3 before taking the first hit. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Myra from engineering. "Keep going," ordered. "We stop when we are dead." Around him, the battle raged. Human ships moved in ways the swarm could not predict. They accelerated at speeds that would kill other species. They took damage that should have destroyed them and kept fighting. Their pilots made decisions in seconds that other species would take minutes to consider. Lieutenant Bora watched her tactical display with amazement. "They are adapting to us," she reported, "but we are adapting faster." Admiral nodded. "That is what we do. Signal all ships, focus fire on the center mass. We need a corridor to the planet." The swarm tried to close the gap. They sent wave after wave of against the human fleet, but humans did not fight like other prey. When one ship was damaged, others moved to protect it. When a corridor began to close, new ships pushed it open again. Private watched the battle from a viewport on the Iron Promise. He had never seen combat before. The sight of human ships fighting against impossible odds made his heart race. "They are actually doing it," he whispered. "They are winning." Sergeant appeared beside him. Her medical kit was strapped to her back, ready for the landing. "They are not winning yet," she said. "They are buying us time. Our job comes next." The swarm began to break. For the first time in their ancient history, they faced prey that hurt them more than they hurt it. Ships were dying on both sides, but the humans did not stop. They did not hesitate. They did not fear. Admiral watched a corridor form through the swarm fleet. It was narrow and unstable, but it led straight to the planet. "Ground forces," she announced, "prepare for deployment. You have 20 minutes to launch." Commander stood on the bridge of the Iron Promise. Behind him, 10,000 Marines waited in drop pods. They were about to fall through a battlefield into a planet full of monsters. He opened a channel to his troops. "This is Commander. In a few minutes we will land on. There are billions of innocent people down there. They are counting on us. They called for help and we answered." He paused. "Remember why we are here. Not for glory, not for revenge. We are here because it is right. We are here because someone has to stand between the darkness and the light. Today, that someone is us." He gripped his rifle. "Marines, prepare for drop. Let us show these aliens what humanity means." The drop pods launched into the burning sky. The drop pods fell through fire and smoke. Commander felt the heat through his armor as his pod screamed through the atmosphere. Warning lights flashed around him. The planet below was chaos. He hit the ground hard. The pod doors blew open, and he rolled out into a street filled with rubble. Around him, other pods were landing. Marines poured out with weapons ready. The sound of gunfire filled the air immediately. The swarm drones were everywhere. They looked like insects made of nightmares. 6 legs, razor claws, and mouths full of teeth designed to tear flesh. They moved fast, faster than any human could run. But humans did not need to run. Humans stood their ground and fought. Raised his rifle and fired. 3 drones fell. 5 more took their place. He kept shooting. "Form up," he shouted. "Defensive perimeter, protect the landing zone." The Marines obeyed instantly. Within seconds, they created a wall of guns and armor. Drones threw themselves at the humans and died by the hundreds, but more kept coming. Private fired until his rifle overheated. He grabbed a fallen weapon and kept firing. His hands shook, but his aim was true. Beside him, veterans fought with calm precision. They had trained for moments like this. They were ready. Sergeant moved through the chaos with purpose. She saw a Marine fall with a claw wound in his leg. She was at his side in seconds, applying pressure to stop the bleeding. "You are going to be fine," she told him. "Stay still." "There are too many," the Marine gasped. "We cannot hold." "We will hold," said firmly, "because we have to." She finished bandaging his wound and moved to the next injured soldier. Behind her, The Marine picked up his rifle and rejoined the fight. He would not let her work be wasted. Commander received a transmission from Admiral. Ground forces, we have opened a corridor. More drop pods incoming. Hold your position. Understood, replied. We are holding. The second wave of Marines landed, doubling their numbers. Now they could move. Ordered his forces to advance toward the nearest shelter. Scouts had identified it as a building holding 200 civilians. The swarm was closing in on it. They fought through streets filled with debris and bodies. Not all the bodies were. Some were drones, torn apart by desperate civilians who had fought back with whatever they could find. They were peaceful, but they were not cowards. They had fought. They had lost, but they had tried. Reached the shelter building. The doors were barricaded from the inside. He could hear the clicking of drones on the other side of a collapsed wall. They were minutes away from breaking through. Blow the barricade, he ordered. We are going in. Marines set charges and blew the doors open. Was the first one through. Inside he found 200 huddled in darkness. They screamed when they saw him. His armor was covered in blood and ash. His rifle still smoked from recent fire. He looked like a monster from their worst nightmares. Then he pulled off his helmet. My name is, he said slowly in the language he had studied on the journey. We are here to help. Who is injured? They stared at him. They had expected death. They had expected monsters. Instead, they saw a tired face with kind eyes. An elderly male stepped forward. His forearms trembled with fear and exhaustion. I am Elder, he said. We did not believe anyone would come. Someone called for help, replied. We always answer. Sergeant pushed past him with her medical kit. She dropped to her knees beside a wounded child and began treating the injury. Her movements were gentle and careful. This will sting a little, she told the child in broken. But you will be okay, I promise. The child looked up at her with wide eyes, smiled warmly and continued her work. Outside, the battle continued. More Marines arrived. More drones died. Slowly, the humans pushed the swarm back. They cleared street after street, building after building. Every shelter they found, they emptied and protected. Every survivor they found, they carried to safety. Commander led a squad into a collapsed hospital. The swarm had hit it hard, but there were still survivors in the basement. He fought through 3 floors of drones to reach them. When he finally broke through the last door, he found 50 medics who had refused to abandon their patients. You came, whispered a young nurse. You actually came. Nodded. He was bleeding from a claw wound in his shoulder, but he barely noticed. We will get you out, he said, all of you. Elder watched the humans work. They were everything he had feared and everything he had hoped for. They fought like demons but protected like angels. They laughed in the face of death but wept over injured children. Why? He asked as Marines carried the last patients to safety. We shunned your people. We called you monsters. Why do you help us? Looked at the old with tired eyes. Because you asked, he said simply. That is enough. Above the planet, the space battle reached its peak. Admiral had lost 12 ships. 20 more were badly damaged. But the swarm was breaking. Their losses were catastrophic. The humans would not stop, would not surrender, would not die quietly. For the first time in their existence, the devouring swarm felt something new. Fear. They began to retreat. The swarm fled into the darkness between stars. They left behind millions of dead drones and thousands of destroyed. They left behind a planet they had almost consumed. They left behind the first defeat in their ancient history. Admiral watched them go from the bridge of the. Her ship was damaged, her crew was exhausted, but they had won. Against impossible odds, humanity had won. Should we pursue? Asked Lieutenant Bora. No, replied. Our mission was to save the, not to destroy the swarm. Let them run. Let them remember what happened here. Let them tell others. She turned to face her crew. We did something today that has never been done. We answered a call for help from strangers who feared us. We fought for people we had never met. We proved that humanity is more than the galaxy believed. She smiled. Now the real work begins. On the surface of the rescue effort continued. Human engineers worked alongside builders to repair damaged shelters. Human doctors treated wounds that medicine could not heal. Human soldiers stood guard while civilians slept for the first time in weeks. Captain walked through a ruined city square. The Eternal Dawn was in orbit undergoing repairs. His crew had survived, though many were injured. He had lost 3 good people in the battle. Their names would be carved on the memorial wall when he returned to Earth. He found a group of children playing in the rubble. They were using pieces of debris as toys, pretending to be ships in a space battle. When they saw him, they stopped and stared. Sat down on a broken stone and smiled. "Do you want to learn a game from Earth?" he asked in slow, careful. The children looked at each other. One brave girl stepped forward. "What kind of game?" Found a round piece of metal that was roughly ball-shaped. "It is called soccer," he said. "You kick this with your feet. The goal is to get it past the other team." The children looked confused. They had 4 arms but only 2 legs, just like humans. "Show us," the girl said. Stood up and kicked the metal ball. It bounced off a wall. The children laughed and chased after it. Within minutes, they were playing a clumsy version of soccer, their laughter echoing through the ruins. Sargent sat in a refugee camp, surrounded by orphaned children. She had not slept in 3 days, but she could not stop working. There were too many who needed help. A small boy sat beside her. He had lost his entire family to the swarm. He had not spoken since the attack, did not try to make him talk. She simply sat with him, letting him know he was not alone. She began to hum a song. It was a Korean lullaby her mother had sung to her as a child. The melody was soft and sad and beautiful. The boy looked up at her. His eyes were filled with tears. "What is that?" he asked in a tiny voice. "A song from my home," replied. "Would you like me to teach it to you?" The boy nodded, began to sing the words slowly, and the boy tried to follow. His pronunciation was wrong, but that did not matter. He was singing. He was healing. Commander sat in a medical tent. His shoulder wound had been treated, but his arm was in a sling. He would recover fully, the doctors said. He was lucky. Elder sat across from him. The old held a cup of human coffee. He had never tasted anything like it. It was bitter and strange, but somehow comforting. "We were wrong about you," said. "All of us. The entire Concord. We thought you were monsters." "We can be monsters," admitted. "We have done terrible things in our history. Wars, destruction, cruelty. We are not innocent." "Then why?" "Because we choose. Every day we choose what we want to be. Today we chose to be heroes. Tomorrow we might fail. But today we chose right." Was silent for a long moment. "I think," he said finally, "the galaxy has misjudged you. I think we were afraid of the wrong thing." 3 weeks later, the fires were out. Was still wounded, but it was healing. Human ships remained in orbit, protecting against any swarm return. Human volunteers worked on the surface, rebuilding what had been lost. Ambassador stood on the steps of the Grand Archive, the most sacred building on. Beside her stood Admiral. Behind them, representatives from the Galactic Concord waited nervously. "You have saved us," said. "We can never repay this debt." "It was not a transaction," replied. "We did not come for payment. We came because you needed help." A Concord diplomat stepped forward. He was from a species called the small and cautious creatures who had spent centuries enforcing the human quarantine. "What do you want?" he asked, his voice trembling. "You have shown your power. You could conquer us all. What do you demand?" Looked at him for a long moment. Then she laughed. "You really do not understand us, do you?" She gestured at the city around them, at Captain teaching children to play games, at Sergeant singing lullabies to orphans, at Commander sharing coffee with an elder. "We want friends," she said. "We have been alone for so long, we just want friends." The diplomat stared at her. He could not believe what he was hearing. "That is all. That is everything." Ambassador took hand in all 4 of hers. "Then let us be the first," she said. "Let thee and the humans be friends. Let this be the beginning of something new." Smiled. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer alone. Years later, the galaxy told a new story about They said humans came from a world that tried to kill them and they survived. They said humans were dangerous, but they chose to protect. They said if you were ever in trouble, if you ever faced something you could not defeat, there was one signal that would bring help. Just call for the humans. They always answered.